Good afternoon. Hey there. Hello on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok. Good afternoon. How are you? I'm Brian Manning and I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, but I didn't like where things were headed with that. I wanted to advocate for people, and so I quit and I started a law firm, and the law firm is called Political Asylum Lawyers. We help immigrants secure their future in America through asylum. I'm going to answer your questions about asylum. Go ahead, leave them in the comments. Actually, before you start leaving the questions in the comments, let me hear from you. Just say hello. Tell me where you're at. Say hello. Tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to see where you guys are at. I'm in Texas. My law firm's based in Texas, but listen, we help people all over the place. Lots of clients in Texas, of course, but lots in California, Florida, New York, around Chicago, and everywhere in between. I'm going to answer your questions about asylum. Let me know down in the comments what's on your mind. What questions do you have about asylum? But say hello first. Say hello. Let's see who we got. Pablo says on YouTube, Brian, this is Pablo. Can't wait to debrief with you. Thanks to you and your team, I won my asylum. That's what I love to see. That's a great way to start the Asylum Answers show. With this software, I'm not sure how to put this on the screen. I want to. Thanks, Pablo. On YouTube, Pablo saying, he said, thanks to our team. Pablo won asylum. So yeah, thank you for saying that, Pablo. This was very recent. And this was a tough case, to be honest with you. A real case, a legitimate, for real case, but one that, was not super easy to win. One that I honestly wasn't 100% sure. I was confident that we had done a great job and that Pablo was going to do a great job in his interview. But first of all, you never know with USCIS, but also, some cases just have certain elements that make them harder to win than others. And this was a tough one, but yeah, we helped Pablo to win asylum. Thank you for saying that, Pablo. And it's been our pleasure to support you. Say hello. Hey, on TikTok. Hello, sir, says Abraham. Good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Hello, sir, watching from Minneapolis, says Boro and Chong. Boro, I used to live in Minneapolis. That's where I went to school for a few years. So I lived in the Twin Cities, and I love it up there. It's nice up there. I love the Twin Cities. I love Minneapolis. Who else we got? We got Musa says hello from New Jersey. Musa, good to see you. Thanks for being with us. Alicia says, hi, Brian from Texas. Pablo says, thank you, sir. You're the best. Appreciate it. You're the best, Pablo. You're the best. Viral to you today says, how can you win asylum? What's the secret to win? Oh, we'll get into that. We'll get into asylum. What else we got? Who's here? Who's here? Yeah, so interesting. All right, well, listen, I'm going to start answering your questions in just a second. But before I answer your questions, I want to say a couple words about this topic. In fact, I was just telling you that, Pablo, who commented, who we helped win asylum recently, his case was a tough one. And in those kind of close cases, I think a legal brief makes a huge difference. Okay, so I want to tell you just quickly about the legal brief, like what it is and why it matters. Okay, because I think a legal brief can make a big difference in an asylum case. Okay. A legal brief is, it's a written argument, right, that a lawyer writes about why you should win asylum. And basically it takes the facts of your case and it takes the law and it applies the facts to the relevant law and policy, and does that in a way that's geared to try to show the officer, here's how my client meets all of the requirements, okay? And so you're citing to legal precedent decisions that have been made from courts, and you're saying, look, judge or officer, our case, is a lot like this other case where A, B, C, and D happened. In that case, they said that, that was enough to count as persecution, or that these facts indicated that the persecution was, in fact, on account of or motivated by one of the 5 protected grounds under U.S. asylum. So basically, you're analogizing and you're distinguishing. You're using the law to try to make the most compelling arguments possible for why, your client, my client, qualifies for asylum. And it can make a big difference in showing the asylum officer or the judge exactly why you deserve asylum. Two other points about this. Most lawyers don't do this. When I was an asylum officer with the government, I was actually shocked. I was really surprised at how few lawyers provided this document, like a legal brief, in which they explain, okay, here's, why my guy should win asylum. I thought, that most lawyers would do that, but almost none of them did. I was really surprised. And it's a huge missed opportunity. It's a huge missed opportunity to help the officer understand the case and to connect the dots. And so the second point that I wanted to make is this: you can basically do the officer's job for them with a legal brief. So listen, after every asylum interview, the asylum officer has to write what is called an assessment, where they have to write out like, okay, here's my decision, and they have to justify it. They have to take the facts and apply them to the law and say, here's how I got to my decision, and justify their decision. And then their supervisor has to review that and approve it. And it's a big deal. It takes many hours to write usually one of these assessments, and if it's done well, especially. And it's hard. It's cumbersome. But here's the thing: I want to do the officer's job for them. So you know how I said I used to be an asylum officer? Well, I know that there is a template, like a set format that is used by asylum officers every time they have to write this assessment, meaning every interview. They start with like a template, a set format. And there's even some set sort of standard language they use every time. Well, now as an asylum lawyer, I use basically the same format and a lot of the same language and stuff that I know the officer has to use. And my legal brief looks like their assessment. Why? I want to do the officer's job for them. I want to show them how to get to the answer yes in my client's case in the easiest way possible. And I want to do their job for them. I want the asylum officer to literally be able to copy stuff, like use the Command C to copy from my brief and just paste into their document, to paste into their assessment, because I'm doing it in the way that their supervisor requires them to do it. I'm doing the work for them. In asylum cases, as in life, right? If you make someone else's job easier for them, they're going to like you for that. Okay. Whatever you want someone to do, if you really want them to do it, you need to make it easy for them to do that thing. And the legal brief, especially the way that my law firm does it, thanks to my insider experience on the other side of the desk, but that's what we do. We make it easy for them. We make it easy for them to get to the answer yes, and we do a lot of their job for them with the legal brief. So it's an important part of a case. It's a reason you should get a lawyer, but it's also something you should ask your lawyer or any prospective lawyers that you're thinking about hiring. You should ask them, what are you going to do in my case to help me win my case? Exactly, concretely. And also ask them specifically, are you going to write a detailed legal brief where you set forth the case and you explain exactly how I meet all the requirements for asylum? Make sure they're going to do that before you hire a lawyer, okay? Because like I said, most of them don't. All right, that's what I wanted to say about the legal brief. All right, let's go. Let's get to the questions. Start with TikTok today. All right, good to see you. What about new cases? So this is Israr, it says. What about new cases when Trump is selected? So thanks for the question. So before I address that, though, just listen real quick. If you're ready to talk with someone about your case, if you want to see, whether we might be able to help you, what we think, if we think that we can help you increase your chances for success, go to this website, this URL. You're seeing it on screen on Facebook, YouTube. It's winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com. You can schedule a consultation with us. It's called an asylum strategy session, and it looks like this on your mobile. Super easy to do. It's quick and easy to get this scheduled. Just takes a second. And we want to talk with you. One of our asylum professionals will talk with you and analyze your situation and tell you whether we think we can help you. And if so, we're going to explain how. Okay. Most lawyers will just be like, yeah, don't worry, I got it. We'll improve your case. We'll help you. But they won't tell you how, because honestly, they don't really have a plan. They don't have a strategy. They just sort of go with the flow and just maybe, coach you a little bit for 10 minutes before the interview or the hearing. Not enough. You need a plan. And so, all right, let's get back. Let's go to the questions. But last thing, yeah, give us a call. Numbers in the profile, or go to winasylum.com so we can talk with you in an asylum strategy session. All right. The question was, what about when Trump gets elected? So thanks. The question is, if Donald Trump wins the presidency, again, What is that going to mean for asylum seekers? So yeah, listen, I do think it's going to be harder to win asylum if Donald Trump wins the presidency, especially for people who come to the southern border, for people and then are in defensive immigration court, defensive asylum proceedings in immigration court. There will be formal policies. If Republicans take the House and the Senate, there will be laws in addition to executive branch policies that are going to make it very, very hard, if not impossible, for most people to get asylum, especially at the southern border. For people at the asylum office in affirmative proceedings, I don't think it'll be quite as bad, but I do think it will be bad. I think the approval rates will be lower under Trump because there's just going to be this sort of anti-immigrant environment that you're operating in there. And there will be some formal policies too that make it harder for everyone to get asylum. So yeah, it's going to be harder. So listen, if you haven't yet applied, but you're considering applying, do it now. If you've applied and you've been waiting for a long time for your interview, call me right now so we can talk about suing the government to get your interview and your decision. There's still time to get it before Trump comes into office, assuming he wins. If you've been waiting for years, we should talk about suing the government. And there's a pretty good chance, if you've been waiting for years, that we can get your interview and get a decision before Trump takes office. All right. So now is the time to act. I want you to call us to talk about that. The number is 713-909-0401. Again, it's 713-909-0401. Call us right now and schedule this asylum strategy session so that we can see if we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. All righty. Let's go to the questions. All right. Let's go to YouTube. Hello, we're in Finland on asylum, says Ria. Okay. Cool. All right. So if someone S on YouTube says, if someone crossed the border and now he's from Yemen or one of the TPS countries, can he get deported with the Biden asylum ban? So the question is, if you're from a country that's been designated for temporary protected status, can you get deported, especially now in the context of some recent policy changes by the Biden administration that have made it especially hard to get asylum, especially for people who come to the southern border? Well, listen, there's a difference between you having TPS, you actually have been granted TPS, and just being from a country that is eligible or is on the list of TPS countries. Being from one of those countries doesn't help you at all. It doesn't protect you. Having TPS, if you're eligible for it and you are approved for it, that protects you from being deported, okay? If you have TPS, they won't actually deport you. They can actually enter an order of deportation against you, and that stays on your record. And if you ever lose your TPS, like when they stop renewing it, then you could actually get deported. But you won't get deported as long as you have active, valid, temporary protected status, okay? Thanks for the question. All right, so let's go back to Viral to You Today. That's a great name. On YouTube says, how can you win asylum? What's the secret to win? So the question is, how do you win asylum, right? So in a nutshell, you got to have a well-founded fear of persecution in your country on account of your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. That's it in a nutshell. But yeah, it's actually way more complicated than that, right? There's three main things that the asylum officer or judge is looking for. First of all, they want to know, have you been persecuted in the past? And that means basically, have you been harmed in a way that is sufficiently severe to rise to the level of persecution? Have you been harmed really bad in the past? The second thing is forward-looking. It's, are you likely to be harmed in the future? So severely that it will be considered persecution. So what is there that we can point to tell us, like, yeah, this person really is at risk. They are likely to be persecuted. Okay, that's the second thing. So first thing was, is there past persecution? Second thing is, are they likely to be persecuted in the future? And the third key thing is what's called nexus. The question is, okay, that persecution, what's it motivated by? Why do the bad guys target you? Why do they want to harm you? To win asylum, it has to be because you, asylum applicant, possess one of those 5 protected characteristics or protected grounds under U.S. asylum law, or at least the bad guys think that you do. They're your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or something called membership in a particular social group. So, and there's a lot more beyond that. It's tough. It's complicated. Go to my YouTube channel if you really want to go deep on What's required to win asylum? Go to YouTube and go to political asylum lawyers. YouTube, search political asylum lawyers for my in-depth free trainings all about asylum. All right. Thanks for the question. All right. Let's stay with YouTube actually. So hello, Brian, says Pilla. Hello. Musa says, I have my asylum case in Newark in immigration court, but I haven't received my court date yet, but I have submitted my application. Okay, good. Nothing to do then. You got to wait till you get your court date. Okay. All right, this is an interesting question from Alicia. It says, as someone who's gay, will the case be denied due to there not being insurmountable obstacles to continuing life with their partners in my home country, since being gay is not illegal in my home country? That's an interesting question. Thanks, Alicia, for asking. So the question is, can you win asylum as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, even if, being gay or being what's called what USCIS calls a sexual minority, even if that's not illegal in your country, can you still win asylum? The answer is yeah. There's no rule that that being gay be illegal in your country in order for you to win asylum. If you've been harmed because of it, and there's a good chance you're going to be harmed severely in the future, physically, but also it can be psychologically, and discrimination, things like that can all be taken into account. Basically, if things are really hard, really bad for you as a member of the LGBTQ community, then yeah, you could win asylum, even though it's not illegal to be gay. Also, one thing to look at is marriage. If gay marriage is illegal in your country, and you want to get married, that's something that's really important to you, that by itself can be enough to count as persecution. The fact that you can't get married under your country's laws can be persecution. So keep that in mind as well. But even if gay marriage is legal in your country, you may still be able to win asylum based on your particular history and your circumstances and anything that indicates that you in particular might be at risk of harm in the future because you're gay. Okay? We should talk about this. I hope you'll schedule a consultation. You can go to winasylum.com. I want to hear about your specific circumstances, okay? And then I can give you a better sense of, whether I think you have a decent chance of winning or not. Go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com. That is where you can schedule a consultation. So listen, right now it's free. We used to charge like $200 almost for a consultation with one of our asylum professionals. But right now, at the moment that I'm making this show, that we're doing this Asylum Answer Show live, it's free. We're offering free consultations. So if you've been thinking, I might want to talk with a law firm about my case to see if they can help me, now's the time. Do it while we're offering this free consultation. I'm not sure how long it's going to last. Okay. So listen, go to winasylum.com and go right now. You don't need to wait. Don't worry about, that we're doing the live right now. Go right now to winasylum.com. It's super quick and easy to schedule that consultation. Okay. All right. Hey everyone, tap and share from South Africa. Thanks. Boro and Chong says, if you want to win your asylum case, this is the best lawyer I've ever seen in my life. Very experienced. That's on TikTok. Thank you, Boro. I appreciate the vote of confidence. Very kind of you. It means a lot to me when people, take time to tell us that, we've been helpful in helping them secure their future in America through asylum. So thank you for that. All right, we've got Pavli, I'm not sure I pronounced that. Sorry about that. It says, I've been on F1 status for 5 years. I applied for asylum on OPT. Do I have to go back to school with a pending application? Okay, so the question is, let's say you're a student in the United States, either in F1 student status or then, the OPT that comes after it, and you've applied for asylum. Do you have to go back to school or somehow get status after your OPT ends? Are you required to do that? Will not doing that hurt your asylum application? So the answer is no. I mean, you don't need to go back to school to regain F1 status by going back to school or to try to get an H-1B status. You don't need to get any status in order to keep seeking asylum. it's true that you will not have legal status once your OPT ends if you don't get some other status. But you have permission to stay here as long as your asylum application is pending. Also, you do not accrue what's called unlawful presence while your asylum application is pending. Since you applied in this question, you applied for asylum while you still had legal status. That means you are not going to be getting unlawful presence days on your record. So no, you don't have to go. You don't have to go to school. You can, but for purposes of like, there's no rules that say you need to, neither like in general nor specifically in terms of, what it means for your asylum case. Okay. All right. Let's go. Nice. What about in Texas? What's the asylum process like in Texas? Thank you on TikTok. So the question is, what is it like for asylum applicants in Texas? Well, the process is the same as really anywhere, right? Asylum and immigration in general is like a federal thing. So the laws are pretty much the same everywhere in the country, and the process is more or less the same everywhere too. But the approval rates vary drastically among regions in the United States. So unfortunately, I got to tell you, Texas is one of the hardest places to get asylum. Both at the asylum office and in immigration courts in Texas, the approval rates are very low. So like basically the southern part of the country, like Texas, Georgia, Florida, where there's a lot of immigrants and all those places, a lot of asylum seekers, those have very low approval rates. The highest approval rates, the best place to be an asylum seeker is California. And then New York is an interesting case because in New York, the asylum office has a very low approval rate, very hard to win. However, the immigration courts in New York have a very high approval rate, usually one of the highest in the country. So that's an interesting case. But in general, California is really good. Like the West Coast is good. And yeah, Texas is tough. Texas is tough. We're based in Texas, so maybe half of our clients are in Texas. So we're very familiar with Texas courts. I used to work at the Houston Asylum Office as an asylum officer, so we know that asylum office very well. It's tough, but it's definitely not impossible to win in Texas. We help people all the time to win in Texas. So thank you for the question. All right. Nice. Okay. Let's go to YouTube. Adam Snills on YouTube says, "Hi Brian, sexual assault or harassment, is that considered persecution?" Thank you for the question. The question is sexual assault or harassment enough in terms of the severity of the harm to rise to the level of persecution? So remember, to win asylum, you need to show that you have a well-founded fear of persecution in the future. Showing that you were persecuted in the past can help you to do that. In some cases, past persecution by itself, even without the risk of future persecution, can be enough to win asylum. So the question is, what is persecution? Persecution means like really grave harm, really serious harm. So the question here is, what about sexual assault and harassment? Is that enough to be persecution? And the answer is, it depends on what kind of sexual assault and what kind of harassment. Like if someone, quickly gropes someone's body with one hand one time, that will not be considered persecution. And they call them a few mean names, that would not be persecution. However, if someone like really sexually batters someone, like, rapes them or something like that, that definitely, yes, is sufficiently severe to rise to the level of persecution. Also, keep in mind that you can sort of add up elements of harm, which is to say, a few sort of minor things, like I said earlier, the groping, like if that happened several times, 5 times, and you're constantly harassed and made fun of and discriminated against, and like you can't get jobs because of something, well, all of that stuff combined together, that you could probably convince the asylum officer or judge is sufficiently severe, considered cumulatively, to count as persecution. Okay? Thanks for the question. Listen, now is a good time to give us a call if you want to talk about your asylum case. It's 713-909-0401. Again, it's 713-909-0401. And I'm Brian Manning if you're just joining us recently. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now as a lawyer at my law firm, we help immigrants all over the United States to secure their future in America through asylum. All right. So listen, or you can call, or you can go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. Super quick and easy to schedule a consultation. It takes like 2 minutes to get scheduled with one of our asylum professionals. All right. So I want to hear from you. Let's do it. Let's see. Okay. Agudarog says, hello, Brian. I'm from Burkina Faso, but I live in New York. I want to ask how long it takes to get the travel documents after you get your asylum approval. Are you from Ouagadougou? I like to impress Burkinabés with the fact that I know the capital of Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou. So I used to, before I was a lawyer, asylum lawyer, I was an asylum officer. But before that, I was a diplomat, and I did not serve in Burkina Faso, but I have friends who did, like at the embassy. And so I know a lot of countries' capitals from that experience because, I was hearing about them when I was a diplomat, and I had friends who worked at the embassies in countries like Burkina Faso that are not well known in the United States, right? I think most Americans probably have literally never heard of the country Burkina Faso, let alone ever even heard the name Ouagadougou, its capital. So it's fun for me though to connect with people from these countries, and they're like, "Wait, how you're this dude from the United States? How do you know the capital of my country?" All right, but anyway, that was a bit of an aside. The question was, how long does it take to get the travel documents after you get your asylum approved? Go to Google this. Go Google USCIS processing times and hit enter. And when you do that, the top link will be for the USCIS page where they have a drop down, and the one that you need to select is form I-131. And then the next drop down it says, there should be an option for like refugee travel document. Okay. So I don't know off the top of my head what it is. I think I checked several months ago, and it was a long time. It was like a year or something, or maybe longer, to the processing time to get the refugee travel document. So keep that in mind. So apply as soon as possible. But if you got like an emergency or some really good reason that you need to travel very soon, you can ask them to hurry it up. You can ask them to expedite it. There's no particular form that you need to file or extra fee to pay to do that. Just when you submit the application, in a cover letter, explain what your circumstances are. And if you have any kind of evidence, any documents that help support the proposition, your story that like, you really need to travel soon, so please expedite this. If you have sort of proof of that, you should include that as well. Okay. Congratulations, by the way, on winning asylum. Aaron Small says, are any of your parents immigrants? I don't know if that question is for me, but if it is, no, my parents are not. All right. So this is a good question. Barry Abdullahi, sorry for the mispronunciation, but Barry says, I did my interview with USCIS 14 months ago and still did not get the decision. Why is it taking so long, and what can I do to speed it up? Thanks for the question, Barry. So the question is, if you've been waiting for a long time to get your asylum decision after doing your asylum interview, like what is going on? Why would it take a long time? And what can you do about it to try to speed it up and get your decision? So listen, this is not uncommon. It often takes many weeks, months, or yes, in some cases, years to get your decision after an interview. So first, after a couple of weeks, I recommend that you email the asylum office and say something like this. Hey, I had my asylum interview on X date, and I haven't gotten the decision yet. Just wanted to let you know that if the officer needs anything further from me to make a decision in my case, I'll be happy to provide that. By the way, any chance you could give me an estimate as to when I might be able to expect my decision? So that language right there, I think is polite. It's a polite way to be like, hey, what's up? Please give me my decision. And if they don't answer, I would send that again like a week later and just say, and then like a week later, be like, hey, could you please see my message below? Please, I'd appreciate if you could please get back to me. I would send a few of those emails. And sometimes, rarely, but sometimes that works. Okay. Sometimes that works to get them to actually like pay attention to you and go look at your case file and be, oh, we just need to do this one little thing to finish it. Let's do it. It's done. And they send it to you. Sometimes that works, rarely. But listen, if you've been waiting for multiple years, or let me rephrase that, if you applied for asylum several years ago, I'm not talking about waiting several years between the interview or since the time of your interview. I'm talking about from the time that you applied for asylum. If it's been multiple years, you can consider suing the government to force them to give you your decision. I'm talking all the time about this mandamus lawsuit. Usually it's in the context of suing the government to force them to give you your interview, but it also works after your interview. You can sue them to force them to give you your decision, okay? So if you've been waiting years, let me rephrase that. If your case has been pending for years and you've done your interview, but you haven't gotten the decision, you should reach out to us. We sue the government all the time, including under this circumstance, and it works. It usually works. It almost always works. Speaking of, so that raises the good question. And this question is, what is this mandamus lawsuit that I'm always talking about? So listen, mandamus is like this Latin word that means like we command. And it's a lawsuit where you're filing it in a federal court and you're asking a federal judge to tell the asylum office that it needs to do its job. The government's obliged to act in a reasonable time on any immigration application. When they don't do that, you can sue them. Now, this works really, really, really well. If you've been waiting for multiple years for your asylum interview, you should consider suing. Okay. We've been doing this a bunch lately at my law firm, and it's incredibly effective. It's a powerful tool to force your interview so you can get your interview, win your case, and move on with your life with confidence around your future in America. Okay. Our clients love it because it works really, really well. All right. So that's a mandamus lawsuit. You're forcing you're getting a judge to tell the government, hey, you got to do your job. You got to give this person their interview and their decision pronto. Okay. It's great. We love it. I love it. Our clients, more importantly, they really love it. All right. If you want to talk about that, we would love to help you. Go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com. That's where you can schedule your consultation, what we call an asylum strategy session. So that one of our asylum professionals can assess your situation, tell you whether we think we're in a position to help you. And if so, we'll explain to you how. We'll set forth actual strategy, a plan for what we'll do in your case to give you the best possible chance to achieve your desired outcome. Whether you're considering applying for asylum, or whether you've already applied and you're considering suing to move your case forward, or maybe you just got your interview scheduled or your court hearings coming up soon and you realized, I need help. I want to improve my chances for success. That's what we're here for. That's what we do every day, all day, is we help immigrants all over the United States to secure their future in America through asylum. So give us a call about that. All right. All right. Nice. How long after road? All right, good question. So Miss Fine over on TikTok says, Marlon, is that Marlon? Yeah. Or no, Marian, answered her question. Marlon says, as soon as possible, he said once, saying that I had previously said as soon. I think I said that a couple of days ago, but I want to address it again here with you, Miss Fine, to give you a little bit more detail. But yeah, he's right. So the question is, if you come to the United States on a visa and you know that you want to apply for asylum, when should you apply? Should you apply right away? Should you wait a certain number of months? Should you wait till maybe you get close to that 1 year filing deadline? When should you apply after coming here on a visa? Whether it's a tourist visa, a student visa, a work visa, whatever. In my opinion, the sooner, the better. All right. This is, I hear even not just random people, but also I hear immigration lawyers sometimes say, oh, you should wait like 3 months or 6 months. I disagree completely. I think honestly, in the asylum officer's eyes, it looks better if you've applied soon after you arrive, because they're like, wow, this person must have really been fleeing their country and had been thinking about this and really been going through something serious to cause them to like take action this fast and to be ready to apply for asylum quickly after getting to the United States. And listen, the sooner you apply for asylum, the sooner you can get your work permit based on your pending asylum case. That's huge motivation for most people to apply as soon as possible. So listen, I cannot think of any reason to wait. I would do it as soon as you can. The sooner, the better. All right. So, yeah, that's that. That's what I think about that. Nice. Designs by Linton says, why do Republican on YouTube says, why do Republican politicians who hate immigrants have all kinds of ethnic wives? LOL. I'm not going to address that one, but you guys can mull that over and debate that in the comments if you want. All right. So Musa says, I have my asylum case in Newark Immigration Court, but I haven't yet received my court date yet, and I've submitted my asylum application recently. Do you have a question about that, Musa? Let me know if you have a question. All right, good question. Alicia says, after you win a mandamus lawsuit, when will the interview be scheduled? Good question. So the question is, if you sue the government through a mandamus lawsuit to force them to give you your interview and you have success, you win this mandamus lawsuit, well, when can you count on having your interview scheduled? In other words, how long does it take to actually get the interview after you win a mandamus lawsuit? Here's the thing. Usually you don't have to technically win the mandamus lawsuit to get your interview. What normally happens is this. We file the lawsuit and then the lawyer for the government has 60 days, a deadline of 60 days to go back to the judge and tell the judge what the government's position is with regard to the lawsuit. During those 60 days, usually near the end of them, they call me and they say, Brian, we don't really want to fight this one. This is not one that we really want to fight. If your client will agree to dismiss the lawsuit, then you know what? We'll give her the interview now, and we'll give her the decision soon too. That's usually how this gets resolved. And we say, okay, well, we're not going to dismiss it yet. We're going to pause it. We'll agree to pause the lawsuit. You give her the interview notice, and then once you do the interview and once she has the decision in her hand, then we'll agree to dismiss the lawsuit. So that's what happens 99% of the time in the cases that we've done it, where we sue the government. And in terms of like how long you're going to have to wait, well, after you file the lawsuit, I'd say for us, our client on average, the interview has been occurring maybe on average 2 months, maybe 3 months after we file the lawsuit. Yeah. So it varies. It can be more. It can be 7, 8, 9, 10 months in some cases. Sometimes it's faster. Sometimes it's a matter of weeks. But usually it's fast. Usually it's within a couple of months, 2 or 3 months after filing the lawsuit. So yeah, mandamus is great. It's a powerful tool. It's great. And then you get the decision usually very quickly too, usually within a few weeks of the interview, because the mandamus suit is still hanging over the government's head, so to speak. It still exists. So it's putting pressure on them to keep moving things along quickly. And so usually after the interview, the decision is within, a few weeks. Okay. So that is that. Yep. All right. Yusuf Beck says, what about an online lawyer? What do you mean by that? About online lawyer. What do you mean by that? Explain to me in other comments what you mean. All right. What's your number? Mba says. Edwin says, our number is 713-909-0401. Again, our number is 713-909-0401. But you know what? Better than calling is going online and scheduling your consultation with us. That's it. winasylum.com. WINASYLUM.com. That's where you can schedule your asylum strategy session with one of our asylum professionals. Okay. You're my best and only unpaid salesman, Pablo. You're our advocate. Pablo on YouTube says, I switched lawyers 3 weeks before my interview. I hired Brian and his team. They got everything ready, nice, neat, and perfect in a timely manner. I won asylum. Don't be afraid to change lawyers. Thanks, Pablo. Yep. it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work putting together Pablo's case. Pablo had a bunch of evidence. He did a good job of getting evidence on his own. But it was a lot of work for us to work through it all and decide what additional evidence to recommend that he try to get in just those 3 weeks before the interview, and to prepare him to do multiple practice sessions, including a full-scale mock interview with our clients. Before the asylum interview, we do a practice interview where they are going to experience everything that you'll experience on the day of the real interview. That way, when you go into the real interview, you feel like you've been there before. It's like you know what to expect because you've been through it. You've been through a practice interview from beginning to end. Like even all the administrative stuff, all the things that they have to say to you, we do all of it so that you feel like, hey, I've been there, I've done that. It's not scary anymore. I know what I'm getting into. I know what it feels like to be in this position. I know what kind of questions they're going to ask me. This stuff is going to help you to do a better job on the day of the real interview because you're going to be more comfortable and more confident and ready to do a great job. So yeah. And also Pablo said, don't be afraid to change lawyers. So I get this question all the time. Can you change lawyers in your asylum case? Absolutely. Listen, you have the right to have whatever lawyer you want representing you. Now, in asylum cases, the government is not obliged to pay for you to have a lawyer, but you do have the right to have one represent you, and you get to have one of your choosing. And that means you can switch lawyers at any moment, really. If you're not happy with your lawyer, or listen, even if you are happy, but you think that they are not in the absolute best position to give you the best possible chance of winning your case, and you think there's someone else who is better positioned to give you the best chance to win your case, you should switch lawyers. Listen, this is too important. We're talking about your future. We're talking about your safety. We're talking about the life that you are trying to build in the United States. This is a huge deal. You want to get the best help possible. All right. So yeah, you can switch lawyers. Don't stick with someone that you're not thrilled with. Don't stick with someone if you think there's another lawyer out there who is better positioned to help you secure your future in America through asylum. Okay. Designs by Lynn 10 says, Brian, can you talk about expediting your EAD? 180 days is too long with living costs in NYC. Good question. So the question is, can you speed up your employment authorization document application process? So let's say, this is the EAD, the work permit, right? You can apply 150 days after you've applied for asylum. The government can actually issue or approve your work permit and mail your work permit card 180 days after you've applied for asylum. The question is can you expedite it? Is there a way to say, hey, please do it faster? No. No, I've never even seen a humanitarian expedite. Most things with USCIS, you can be like, oh, please expedite this under urgent humanitarian grounds if you've got a real emergency kind of situation. But honestly, I've never seen that with an EAD. I've never seen or heard of an EAD being expedited, unfortunately. Especially not the first one, okay? The one we're talking about here where you have to wait 150 days to apply for it. It's actually a rule. Yeah, because, listen, it's actually a rule. It's a regulation for sure. I don't think it's written into the literal law, but it's at least a regulation that says they can't grant it until you've been waiting 180 days after applying. And so they're not going to go against that. Okay. So no is the answer. Siemp, sorry that I mispronounced it. Kanjabai, sorry for the mispronunciation. Says, how can I enter the U.S. border without detention? So the question is, can you come to the U.S. through the southern border to seek asylum without being detained? And the answer is, listen, people do cross the border without being detected. I'm not recommending that you try to do that, but I'm telling you, it happens. People do cross the southern border without getting caught, and so they're not detained. Most people, though, many people do get caught when they're trying to not get caught. But also recently, in recent years, even more people are going and turning themselves in and saying, hey, they're going either to a border checkpoint or crossing the border and then going and literally going out of their way to try to find a border patrol agent to say, hey, can I apply for asylum? all those people, anyone who has contact with a government, U.S. government official, is going to be detained. You will be detained. It's just a matter of how long. In some cases, it's a few hours. In most cases, it's several days. In many cases, it's weeks. In some cases, it's months or even years. The policy of the U.S. government is meant to be to detain people the entire time that their immigration court case is pending, meaning months or even years. It's just that they don't have enough beds for that. They don't have enough space to keep everyone detained. So often they just process you quickly and they let you go into the country and say, show up for your court hearings. But you will be detained at least if you have contact with the authorities, you will be detained at least a few hours, probably more. So keep that in mind. All right. Haven says, hey, Brian, do you have any Chinese clients? I read the data saying Chinese asylum seekers have high approval rates compared to other nationalities. Is that true? The question is, do we represent Chinese nationals in asylum cases? And then also, is it true that approval rates for Chinese citizens tend to be pretty high? The answer to both those questions is yes, we do have Chinese clients. We know these cases well. I handled, in addition to having Chinese clients now, I handled a lot of Chinese cases when I was an asylum officer with the government. And I know a fair amount about China from when I was a diplomat with the U.S. government. So these are cases that we know very well. We have a lot of experience with them. And the answer to the other question is that, the approval rates for Chinese do tend to be higher. They're among the highest in terms of approval rates by nationality. For pretty obvious reasons, right? I mean, there are a lot of things about China that, make it such that their citizens, certain subsets of the population are at real risk of being persecuted. So that's one thing. But there's a fair amount of denials where there shouldn't be, because a lot of the cases are looked at with suspicion. In the past, there's been some high profile fraud with Chinese cases. Like there's been some shady, corrupt immigration lawyers that were doing like a massive fraud ring that asylum officers are now like all taught about. And so they kind of look suspiciously, I think, at a lot of Chinese cases, which is just for the point of saying that the mere fact that you're Chinese doesn't mean like, oh, I got it made, it's easy, I'm going to win asylum, because they have high approval rates. No, it's not like that. You got to put together a real case. You got to do a good job preparing it. You got to do a good job preparing yourself for the interview, and you got to do a good job at the interview. So, yeah, we help people from China all the time. So I hope you'll call us so we can see if we can support you, maybe. All right. All right. All right. Seldom says on YouTube says, what's the chances for winning an asylum case from Saudi Arabia based on leaving Islam? That's basically my case. Thanks for asking, Seldom. The question is it a viable asylum case if you're from a country that has a pretty conservative, strict interpretation of Islam and you renounce Islam or you stop being Muslim? And the answer is, that can make for a good asylum case. It depends on, your personal circumstances usually and the country as well. So from Iran, we have Iranian clients that they change religions or they become non-Muslim. And that's a real thing. That's a serious, legitimate risk in Iran of being persecuted just because of that, like by itself. And those are legitimate, good cases, and they have a high approval rate. And we've never lost one of those. From Saudi Arabia, it's not going to be probably as strong as Iran, but it's definitely something that there's a chance to win. I would say there's definitely a chance to win. I need to look at it a lot more closely, both researching Saudi Arabia and also, talking with you about your particular circumstances to give you a better assessment of just how strong I think your case is. But I can say, just based, generally speaking, someone from Saudi Arabia who renounces Islam, is that a viable asylum claim? It gives you a chance. I think there's definitely probably a chance for someone in that position to possibly win. All right. Go to winasylum.com and schedule a call with us, schedule a consultation. I want to talk with you, all of you. If you are interested in possibly getting help with your asylum case, go to winasylum.com and schedule an asylum strategy session so we can see if we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. All right. So that's it for today. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. My law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. And it's truly an honor to support you in your asylum journey. So thank you for being with us today. Look forward to seeing you the next time we do an Asylum Answer Show live. All right. Bye, guys. Have a good mid to late afternoon and then on into the evening.